Does your bank have a policy against funding new oil and gas products? Mr. Diamond?
Absolutely not, and that would be the road to hell for America.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Sir,
The first one, our lead story of the day, being Rashida Tlaib going after bank CEOs and just being smug, disrespectful to them, saying they don't care about certain things, telling them to divest from oil and gas, and then she says the quiet part out loud multiple times, folks. This one is going to blow your mind. Without further ado, let's go ahead and roll this.
thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate this opportunity. I represent one of the largest populated counties in Michigan. And in recent years, I know the Michigan chapters of the Arab American Civil Rights League and the Council on American Islamic Relations have filed complaints regarding banking discrimination against those of Muslim faith. And so, Mr. Monahan, in May, you might know that there is a class action lawsuit that was filed alleging that Bank of America engaged in discriminatory banking practices by targeting, restricting, and closing accounts of people of Muslim faith. Are you aware of that?
No, I'm not, ma'am.
Well, right now, it's a class filed. One of them is Mohammed, who had met all the bank's requirements of showing residency and providing proof of that, and still his account was unlawfully closed. How does your bank, though, ensure that the bank's customer identification program complies with AML regulations without freezing out whole classes of consumers from access to banking services to support their families and their businesses? What steps have you all taken in that regard? And it sounds like you don't even know about the class action suit. You don't care?
Folks. So there's a lot of stuff there. She's with the progressive left, okay? She's part of the squad. I don't know anything about this case. The CEO doesn't know anything about the case. He just said it. And because he doesn't know anything about the case, all of a sudden he doesn't care. Who knows how many lawsuits that guy has? Who knows how much stuff actually gets to him as the CEO? But all of a sudden, he doesn't care. It's just amazing how they get to that kind of logic and reasoning. I just don't know how you get there, folks. I really don't. But this is what they do, okay? They're playing this whole thing because there's probably some disparity in accounts or accounts being shut down. And it just so happens that people end up being Muslim, and maybe the county or the locality of which that bank is at, like she just said, is a big population of Muslim faith. And so if you're closing down bank accounts and it's also correlated to an area of a lot of Muslims being, then you would expect there to be some sort of disparity and gap of which Muslims versus other faiths of maybe different counties having their accounts shut down versus a different county. So because there's a disparity, there's always discrimination, or because of the disparity between races, there's racism. This is how the left works, and they've been doing it for decades because they want everything to be equal. It must be exactly equal. I'm not saying there wasn't discrimination. Again, I don't know anything about the case. Neither does the CEO, but somehow now we don't care because we don't know anything about it.
I said before, yeah, I'm not aware of the class action suit. We have a deep history of banking all Americans, and another 1 million Americans will open accounts with us this quarter. And so I think we've got a strong track record across all ethnicities and all people. So if you have a specific issue.
Sir, you should be very concerned. Mr. Manahan, you should really be concerned about this because, again, you can see that there's a pattern that specific groups from their certain background or ethnicities or faith. Again, this is a lawsuit that was filed in May, and that, we need to make sure that Americans of Muslim faith or any of national origin are not being targeted, and that you guys are not implementing processes that singles them out. Are you at least supportive of making sure that you're not discriminated against a whole community?
I can assure you that's not the case.
Okay, well, I hope you got good lawyers. Do you know?
What a B. And you guys know what word I'm saying. I hope that you have good lawyers. I mean, the guy was polite. He called you ma'am. He answered your questions clearly. It wasn't like he was giving us one of those Stonewall things where they're only given like 5 minutes of time and they're just trying to repeat a bunch of nonsense that never answers the question of which was just asked to them. He's not doing that. He was clear cut with you of, hey, that's not what we're doing. I assure you we're not discriminating against anybody. And he probably knows. They probably get lawsuits like this all the time of, oh, there's some sort of discrimination practice taking place on Muslim faith. What in anything that she said, you guys let me know, because I've listened to this clip about 2 or 3 times before we've done this episode. I didn't hear anything that she said other than the fact of one person or a couple people at most being connected of that they are of Muslim faith, but nothing that she said in terms of why they got their accounts closed. Did I hear a connection to the fact of they were closed because of their faith? So again, I don't know much, but just basing off what she says, it doesn't sound there's a lot of evidence there in terms of this actually being a class action lawsuit of which they're going to win in terms of those that are suing the bank. Let's go ahead and continue here.
You have all committed, as you all know, to transition the emissions from lending and investment activities to align with pathways to net zero in 2050. Do you know what the International Energy Agency has said is required to meet our global 2050 net zero targets of limiting global temperature rise to 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit or 1.5 degrees Celsius? So no.
Celsius? I'm sorry. I shouldn't be one to talk. Look, I mess up on words all the time, especially when you're trying to read fast. She is on a timer here, folks. But hold on to that 1.5 degree increase of Celsius that she's talking about here, because watch what she asks them and then listen to their response. You got to love these bank CEOs' responses. Let's go and play it.
New fossil fuel production starting today. That's like zero. So I would like to ask all of you and go down the list, because again, you all have agreed to doing this. Please answer with a simple yes or no. Does your bank have a policy against funding new oil and gas products? Mr. Diamond.
Absolutely not, and that would be the road to hell for America.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Sir, you know.
Yeah, that's fine. That's the quiet part out loud. No, that would be a road to hell for America. That bank CEO is correct. If you recall, AOC trying to push through the Green New Deal would have destroyed the American economy. And she just said, after he just got done stating that that's a road to hell for America, she goes, that's fine. It's not fine. And that's what they don't realize. The progressive left are willing to destroy this country from the inside out. And I mean that in all regards. Their policies of wanting to get to zero emissions, which is asinine. We all want clean air. We all want clean energy. But the policies that they're pushing through and demanding from banks to the automobile industry, to vast swaths of industry, they're trying to force them to make certain decisions that's going to impact the American economy and ultimately hurt the American economy. And you just heard it here. They want them to stop divesting in gas and oil. You have to be an idiot. That is where all our freight comes from. That is where a lot of, if not most of our energy comes from. And she doesn't care that it's going to destroy America. She said the quiet part out loud, folks. You heard it from the horse's mouth. And this is not the only time we've heard it from the horse's mouth from the progressive left. They don't care a damn what it takes to get to clean energy, because they all believe that the world's going to freaking blow up. It's going to be gone in 10 years, according to AOC. Well, we're nowhere near that. And they're only looking at a 1.5 degree Celsius increase in temperature, and they're willing to trash our entire country, our entire economy, because of some crazy ass belief that they have in terms of what's going to happen later on.
You know what? Everybody that got relief from student loans has a bank account with your bank should probably take out their account and close their account. The fact that you're not even there to help relieve many of the folks that are in debt, extreme debt because of student loan debt, and you're out there criticizing it. Ms. Frazier, how about?
What does that have to do with divesting from oil and gas? The fact that they're not willing to just sit there and drop your student loans. You're the one that borrowed money from them. And by the way, when you're borrowing money from the bank and say, I had an account in that bank, theoretically, you're borrowing from me because that's where the bank gets their money from. So somehow she's going to make some cockamamie connection between divesting in oil and gas and climate change to helping people with their student loans that willfully walk to the bank and engage with the lender to take out that loan, and somehow you're going to make some asinine connection to this. Does anybody see how dumb she is? I'm sorry. Again, as I've stated, we don't throw that word dumb around a lot here on the Bald Brad channel. Knucklehead here. Dumb. Stupid. That's what she is. And it's on full display right now in front of all of you. Student loans to gas and energy. Get out of here.
How about you?
We will continue to invest in and support clients who are investing in fossil fuels and in helping them transition to cleaner energies.
And Mr. Monahan?
We are helping our clients make a transition, and that means we're lending to both oil and gas companies and to new energy companies and helping monitor their course towards the standards you're talking about.
Yeah, Mr. Sharp?
It's, excuse me, the same thing as Mr. Moynihan said.
Yeah, I'm not going to ask you, Mr. Diamond, because you obviously don't care about working class people in frontline communities like ours that are facing huge amounts of high rates of asthma, respiratory issues, and so much more. Cancer rates are so high among my communities that I represent. So I'm not going to even ask you if you're committing to ending financing of new oil and gas projects. But Ms. Frazier, Mr. Monahan, Mr. Shea, we are living through a climate crisis today, and a commitment to net zero requires a commitment to ending fossil fuel financing. It is important because I want you all to know at the end, we're going to pay the cost of the public health impact. These are people that you're supposed to be serving, the folks that you're supposed to be providing and supporting in communities. Anything else defies all logic and scientific evidence at our disposal. If your financial institutions aren't going to follow through on your own net zero commitments, then regulators, including the Federal Reserve and Congress, must step in and make them. And with that, Chairwoman, thank you so much again for holding this hearing.
Did you just hear what she said?
On your own net zero commitments, then regulators, including the Federal Reserve and Congress, must step in and make them. And with that, Chairwoman, thank you so much.
The quiet parts out loud, folks. If they don't do what you say, who's going to step in? The government's going to step in. And what are they going to do? They're going to tell you what to do. This is all part of the Great Reset. I know it sounds like some bogus thing, but if you read Glenn Beck's book called The Great Reset, you can read it in one night. Fabulous reading on the ESG scores and basically to stop lending practices for those that have a low ESG score and environmental score. That's kind of where we're heading here, and you just heard her say it. If you don't follow our guidelines, if you don't follow what the progressive left wants, we're going to come after you, and we're going to use the government as a weapon. We're going to use the government as a club to make sure that we get what we want. And that's what they want. They want them to stop lending to fossil fuel industries. They want to stop lending to gas and oil and all these places because they want zero emission by 2050. No matter what it takes, they're going to do it. And you just heard it from the horse's mouth here, folks. This should be scary to all of you because you see the agenda out loud now. Before, they used to talk behind closed doors about this stuff, and we're called conspiracy theorists when we talked about the Great Reset, or we talked about lending practices and all these things that they want to do. They don't even care anymore. They've gone so off the reservation because of Donald Trump 4 years ago that they have all this derangement and psychological stuff coming out now where they're willing to do whatever it takes to make sure they get zero emissions so that we're last and everybody else is first. China will be ahead of us. Russia will be ahead of us. India will be ahead of us. Whatever it is, they're going to make sure that America is crippled to get what they want. And they're not going to realize the mistake they made it until that mistake has already been done. So that's Rashida Tlaib acting like a dum-dum in front of everybody for all of us to see. I hope you enjoyed that clip from the Bald Brad Show. If you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all our future content.